And speaking of, can you just go through the chart really quick too, of starting with 27 up to the 67? Like, what's the
Yep.
differences and prices and
Okay. Okay.
features as you
So
step
let
up?
I'll let Jake go through that again. So
Yeah,
Jake.
yeah, awesome. So I'm gonna start with the AVR X2700. That one's starting out at a price of $849, just off the shelf like that one. And then the X3700, we're looking at about $1199. The X4700 will be $1699, and after that we'll have the AVR X6700 at $2599. So with this, for the X4700 and the X6700, we're expecting those to hit shelves this in the next 2 weeks, June 15th. Very excited about that one. With the AVR X3700 coming out in July, mid-July time frame, and the X2700 coming out mid-August.
Okay. Yes. And the one thing I want to stress again, we talked about the fact that the receivers have one 8K, 4K, 120 pass-through input, which is input number 7 or 8. All of the other features we talk about, quick media switching, auto latency mode, variable refresh rate, quick frame transport, all of those other features, not EARC, but all those other features apply to every input. The fact is, the boards that are available to manufacturers right now have 1 in and 2 out, or 2 in and 1 out. And we realize that a lot of people who are using these higher end models may have a TV and a projector. So we chose the 1 in and 2 out. But it does not mean that all of those other features, because most people are only going to have one game system, right? And if you think about it, because of EARC, what the main thing that all I have to do, hold on a second, is if I go out and buy both systems, the TV has inputs too, right? So because the TV has inputs, I can utilize EARC to send that other source. So if I do decide to go out and buy both, I may plug both into the TV, because we've learned that people, a lot of times, these better receivers are in a rack way in the back of the room while the TV's in the front. And remember, these HDMI cables, a good HDMI cable, a copper, can only pass 48 or 40 gigabits per second about 6 feet. So a lot of times it may be far less expensive for you to plug the game system directly into the TV and use a $100 good HDMI cable, instead of plugging the game system into the receiver and buying a $700 active HDMI cable to send the video to the TV. So a lot of times you're going to be it's far less expensive to plug the game system into the TV and send the audio back than plug the game systems. It would be to plug the game system into the receiver and send the video back. Sending video requires higher bandwidth, which means the price of the cable is 10 times higher than what is required to send audio the other direction. Okay, so we got to think about those types of things as we build products.
And will all the outputs upscale up to 8K?
Yeah, every single output. So say you have a 6700, there's a total of 8 inputs. So one of them is 8K. The other 7, counting the one in the front, will accept 18 gigabits per second, 4K 60p HDR, and it can convert that to 8K. And those inputs can also convert HD to 8K to go out to your receiver. Out to your display.
So I could have 3 8K televisions, and it would upscale all 8 to 8K.
Well, yeah, we have 2 outputs, so you could have. So you would have. So say you had 2 8K TVs, you could do that. Okay. And that's actually pretty good, because you know how much an 8K splitter costs right now? Almost about $800.
Yeah.
So just think about that. The splitter for 8K probably costs about almost as much as a 2700. Okay, so those are the kind of things that shows you the value of these Denon products. There's another thing that Gene brought up yesterday that I thought was pretty cool. The preamp mode. What you can use the preamp mode for is, in my house, I have this big rack with lots of amplification. I could use the receiver. I can sell the receiver. I can set up a speaker preset to say preamp mode and use the amps in this rack, right? Then I can run all the wires from all of the amplifiers to my den that has in ceilings in it. All right, and make another preset mode that turns the amps back on. And ta-da, set 11 channels in this room, with 13 channels in this room, and 11 channels in the other room. Ta-da, 2 surround sound systems. So there's a lot of things you could do with this that people haven't thought about.
I think it's just interesting to point out too, starting with the 37 and above, the dual subwoofer outputs, they're independent rather than the 27 is parallel, which would make integrating your subwoofers better.
Exactly. And people always ask me about Odyssey, and the first thing that we always tell them is there's 2 tips. Number 1, you take all 8 measurements, all 8 positions. Okay, that allows the receiver to get a better understanding of what you're doing. The next thing is there's a $20 app called the Odyssey Multi-Q app. That basically the receiver, you plug the microphone into the receiver takes the measurements, sends the measurements to your smart device, your smartphone or iPad via your home network. That smart device does the calculations. It has a much bigger brain to do that than we could allot in a receiver. Then that information is sent back to the receiver. You also have the ability to modify it, the curve, the roll off. A lot of times people just decide to use Odyssey to play only up to about 300 hertz to correct the bass, and they leave the rest of the high frequencies alone. All that stuff can be done from that $20 app. So if you're going to buy a receiver from us, spend the $20 for the app, use the app for the Odyssey calibration, and take all 8 measurements, and you'll get much better performance.